She looked young, too young to be on a military base. When the hardened Marines saw her in the communal showers carrying a pink towel, they laughed. Called her lost little girl. Then she walked onto the firing range, picked up the Barrett .50 cal sniper rifle that grown men struggled with, and put 5 rounds through the same hole at 1,500 meters. The laughter died. Because Captain Riley Morgan wasn't just any soldier. She was their new commanding officer. Before you dive into this story, tell me, which country are you from? Comment below. Subscribe now because tomorrow I'm dropping the best story yet. You don't want to miss it. The early morning sun beat down on Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, as 23-year-old Riley Morgan stepped off the transport bus with her duffel bag slung over her shoulder. She was small, barely 5'3", with a young face that made her look more like a college freshman than a decorated military officer. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, and she wore standard-issue PT gear, gray shirt and black shorts, nothing to distinguish her from any new recruit. The Marine Corps Scout Sniper Training Facility was an imposing complex of buildings, firing ranges and obstacle courses where the best of the best came to prove themselves. Riley had been assigned here as the new executive officer for Charlie Company, second in command to the company commander. But she had arrived 3 days early intentionally, wanting to observe the unit and its personnel before making her official introduction. She had requested to be housed in the standard barracks rather than officer quarters, wanting to get a real feel for the enlisted Marines she would be leading. The administration had been confused by the request but complied. As far as anyone on base knew, she was just another soldier arriving for training. Riley grabbed her towel and toiletries and headed toward the communal shower facilities. It was 0600, and she could hear voices and laughter echoing from inside the concrete building. As she pushed open the door, the noise hit her, a dozen Marines in various states of undress, some heading to showers, others coming back, all talking loud and crude the way soldiers did when they thought no officers were around. "Yo, check it out," one of them said loudly as Riley entered. He was a big guy, probably 6'2", muscular, with a shaved head and a scar across his jaw. His name tape read Kowalski. "We got a lost little girl in here." The others turned to look and the laughter started immediately. "Sweetheart, the civilian facilities are on the other side of base," another Marine called out, a skinny guy with corporal stripes named Jennings. "This is a military area." Riley said nothing, just walked calmly toward an empty shower stall. Her pink towel, a deliberate choice, stood out starkly against the drab military environment. "Oh man, look at the pink towel," Kowalski said, slapping his knee. "Did you get lost on your way to cheerleading practice, honey?" "Maybe she's somebody's daughter," a third Marine suggested, this one a stocky guy named Rodriguez. "Base commander probably has a kid visiting." "Nah man, she's probably one of those military groupies," Jennings said with a nasty laugh. "Comes to bases trying to hook up with real soldiers." Riley stepped into the shower stall and pulled the curtain closed. Behind the curtain, she allowed herself a small smile. This was exactly what she had expected. In her 6 years in the Marine Corps, she had dealt with this kind of attitude more times than she could count. Being young, female and baby-faced meant she was constantly underestimated, dismissed, mocked. What these Marines didn't know was that Riley Morgan held the Marine Corps record for longest confirmed kill shot at 2,340 meters. She had 2 Bronze Stars, a Purple Heart from Afghanistan, and had graduated top of her class from every school the Corps had sent her to. She was a sniper instructor qualified, combat veteran with 3 deployments, and had personally trained some of the best marksmen in the military. But let them laugh. She'd show them soon enough. "Yo, little girl," Kowalski called out, his voice dripping with condescension. "You know how to use a shower, or do you need help? These aren't like the ones at home." More laughter erupted. Riley finished her shower in silence, dried off, dressed in her PT gear, and walked out of the facility without saying a single word. Behind her, the Marines continued their jokes. "Did you see her face? She looked like she was about to cry. Probably realized she's in over her head. $5 says she's gone by tomorrow." Riley walked across the base to the administrative building and checked in properly, showing her orders to the staff duty officer. His eyes went wide when he saw her rank and assignment. "Captain Morgan? Ma'am, we've been expecting you. The company commander wants to meet with you at 0800. "Thank you, Sergeant. I'll be there." At exactly 0800, Riley walked into the company commander's office. Major David Bronson stood up from behind his desk, a veteran officer with 20 years of service and a weathered face that had seen multiple combat zones. "Captain Morgan, welcome to Charlie Company," he said, shaking her hand firmly. "I've read your service record. Very impressive. Harvard ROTC Scout Sniper School Honors graduate, multiple combat deployments. We're lucky to have you. Thank you, sir. Happy to be here. I'll be honest with you, Captain. Some of the men are going to have issues with your age and gender. This is a sniper unit, old school, traditional. You're going to face resistance. Riley smiled. Sir, I've been facing resistance since I enlisted. I'm used to it. Good. Because today is qualification day on the range. All personnel are required to qualify with the Barrett M107. I want you out there in uniform showing them what you can do. Make a statement. Yes, sir. That's exactly what I intend to do. At 1,000 hours, Riley walked onto the firing range. She was now in her full combat uniform, her captain's bars clearly visible on her collar, her name tape reading Morgan across her chest. Her hair was pulled back tight, and she carried herself with the confidence of someone who had earned every inch of rank on her uniform. The firing line was crowded with Marines, all waiting their turn to qualify with the Barrett .50 caliber sniper rifle, a massive weapon that weighed nearly 30 pounds and could take down targets at extreme ranges. It was a beast of a gun, with recoil that could injure shooters who didn't know how to handle it properly. Riley approached the range officer, a gruff master sergeant named Williams who had been running this range for 15 years. Captain Morgan, reporting for qualification, she said crisply. Williams looked at her, then at his roster, then back at her. Ma'am, with respect, the Barrett is a specialist weapon. It requires significant upper body strength and experience. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable qualifying with the M4? Master Sergeant, I'm qualified expert with the Barrett. I'd like to take my turn. Williams hesitated, clearly uncomfortable, but finally nodded. Yes, ma'am. Lane 7 is open. As Riley walked toward Lane 7, she passed directly by Kowalski, Jennings, and Rodriguez, the Marines from the shower that morning. They were standing in a group, waiting their turn, and they recognized her immediately. Holy shit, Jennings whispered, his face going pale. That's the girl from the showers. And she's a captain, Rodriguez added, his voice strangled. Kowalski's cocky expression had vanished, replaced by dawning horror as he realized what he had done. They had just spent an hour mocking and disrespecting an officer, not just any officer, but one who was about to become their company executive officer. Riley said nothing to them, just walked past and took her position at Lane 7. The Barrett M107 lay on the bench, a massive weapon that looked almost comically large next to her small frame. The other Marines on the range were watching now, curious to see how this young female captain would handle the legendary .50 cal. She picked up the weapon with practiced ease, checked it with the smooth efficiency of someone who had done this thousands of times, and settled into position. The Barrett was heavy, but Riley had been shooting heavy weapons since she was 17. She knew exactly how to position her body, how to absorb the recoil, how to make the weapon an extension of herself. Target is at 1,500 meters, Master Sergeant Williams announced over the loudspeaker. Standard qualification is 3 out of 5 shots in the target zone. Riley settled in behind the scope, her breathing slowing, her heart rate dropping. The world narrowed to just her, the weapon, and the target 1,500 meters downrange. She calculated wind speed, temperature, altitude, all the variables that affected a bullet's flight over that distance. Then she squeezed the trigger. The Barrett roared, its massive report echoing across the range. Downrange, the spotter called out, "Hit center mass." Riley cycled the bolt, chambered another round, and fired again. Hit center mass. Third shot. Hit center mass. Fourth shot. Hit center mass. Fifth shot. Hit center mass. Master Sergeant Williams walked downrange with binoculars to verify the shots. When he came back, his expression was one of stunned disbelief. He picked up the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Morgan just put 5 rounds through a grouping of 3 inches at 1,500 meters. That's not just a qualification. That's a perfect score. That's instructor-level shooting. The range went completely silent. Every Marine there understood what they had just witnessed. A 3-inch grouping at 1,500 meters with a .50 cal was the kind of shooting that legends were made of. Most expert marksmen would be happy with a 12-inch grouping at that range. Riley stood up, cleared the weapon, and handed it back to the range safety officer. Then she turned and faced the assembled Marines, making direct eye contact with Kowalski, Jennings, and Rodriguez. "Good morning, Marines," she said, her voice carrying clearly across the range. "I'm Captain Riley Morgan, your new company executive officer. I'll be officially assuming duties tomorrow morning at 0600. I look forward to working with all of you." She started to walk away, then paused and turned back. Oh, and for those of you who saw me in the showers this morning, I want you to know something. I heard every word you said. Every joke, every insult, every crude comment. I didn't say anything because I wanted you to show me who you really are when you think no one's watching. Now I know. The three Marines looked like they wanted the ground to swallow them whole. Here's what's going to happen, Riley continued, her voice harder now. Tomorrow morning, 0500, you three will report to my office. We're going to have a conversation about respect, military bearing, and how Marines conduct themselves. And then you're going to spend the next month learning what it means to serve under an officer you underestimated. Dismissed. She walked off the range, leaving behind a crowd of Marines who were rapidly reassessing everything they thought they knew about their new XO. The next morning at 0500, Kowalski, Jennings, and Rodriguez stood at attention outside Riley's office. They had been there since 0445, not wanting to risk being even a second late. When Riley arrived at exactly 0500, they snapped to even more rigid attention. At ease, Marines, Riley said, unlocking her office. Come in. They filed in nervously. Riley sat down behind her desk and studied them for a long moment before speaking. Yesterday on the range, I demonstrated that I can shoot. That's an important skill, but it's not the most important thing about being an officer. Do you know what is? No, ma'am, they answered in unison. Leadership. Taking care of your people. Setting an example. Creating an environment where every Marine, regardless of gender, race, or background, can perform at their best. What you did yesterday morning in the showers, that wasn't just disrespectful to me. It was corrosive to unit cohesion. It was the kind of behavior that destroys morale and effectiveness. She stood up and walked around the desk, standing directly in front of them. Despite being a foot shorter than Kowalski, she somehow seemed to tower over him. I don't care that you laughed at me. I've dealt with worse. What I care about is that you're Marines and you were acting like undisciplined children. You made assumptions based on appearances and those assumptions made you sloppy. In combat, that kind of sloppiness gets people killed. Ma'am, Kowalski started, but Riley held up a hand. I'm not interested in excuses. I'm interested in results. Here's what's going to happen. For the next month, you three are assigned to me as my training detail. I'm going to personally oversee your development as Marines. We're going to work on marksmanship, tactics, physical conditioning, and most importantly, discipline. By the end of that month, you're going to be the best damn Marines in this company. Understood? Yes, ma'am, they shouted. Good. We start at 0530 tomorrow. Bring your A game because I promise you, I'm going to push you harder than you've ever been pushed. Now get out of here and get to your regular duties. They filed out, and as they left, Rodriguez muttered to Kowalski, Dude, we are so screwed. Nah, Kowalski replied, and there was a new note of respect in his voice. I think we just got lucky. Did you see that grouping yesterday? She's the real deal. If she's willing to train us personally, we'd be idiots not to learn everything we can. Over the next month, Riley was true to her word. She pushed Kowalski, Jennings, and Rodriguez harder than they had ever been pushed. Pre-dawn runs, advanced marksmanship drills, tactical scenarios, hand-to-hand combat training. She worked them until they thought they would drop, but she was always right there with them, demonstrating every technique, running every mile, shooting every target. And slowly they began to understand. Riley wasn't trying to punish them. She was making them better. She saw potential in them that they hadn't seen in themselves, and she was determined to bring it out. By the end of the month, all three had improved their qualification scores dramatically. Kowalski, who had been a sharpshooter, qualified as expert. Jennings took 2 seconds off his combat fitness test time. Rodriguez, who had struggled with long-range shooting, was now consistently hitting targets at 1,000 meters. On the final day of their training detail, Riley called them into her office again. Marines, you've completed your training detail. Your performance has been outstanding. You came in as average Marines with bad attitudes. You're leaving as some of the best trained enlisted men in this company. Thank you, ma'am, Kowalski said, and he meant it sincerely. I want to apologize again for how we treated you that first day. It was inexcusable. Riley nodded. Apology accepted. But here's the thing, Kowalski. You didn't just disrespect me that day. You disrespected yourselves. You let your preconceptions make you weak. Real strength isn't about size or gender. It's about skill, discipline, and the willingness to see people for who they really are, not what you assume they are. We understand that now, ma'am, Rodriguez said. You've taught us more in 1 month than we learned in the previous year. Good. Because I'm recommending all three of you for advanced sniper training. You've shown that you have what it takes. Don't waste this opportunity. Their faces lit up. Advanced sniper training was one of the most coveted assignments in the Marine Corps, and the selection rate was brutal. Being recommended by the company XO was a huge advantage. Over the next 6 months, Riley Morgan established herself as one of the most effective officers at Camp Lejeune. Her company consistently scored highest in marksmanship qualifications. Her Marines were disciplined, motivated, and fiercely loyal. Word spread about the small female captain who could outshoot anyone on base and who turned average Marines into elite performers. The story of what happened on the firing range that day became legendary. New arrivals to the base were told the tale of the young captain who looked like a teenager, got mocked in the showers, and then proceeded to put on one of the most impressive displays of marksmanship anyone had ever seen. It became a teaching moment about not judging books by their covers. Kowalski, Jennings, and Rodriguez all successfully completed advanced sniper training. They became known as Captain Morgan's crew, and they wore that designation with pride. Whenever new Marines showed disrespect to female soldiers or made assumptions based on appearance, one of them would tell the story of their first encounter with Captain Morgan. "Let me tell you something," Kowalski would say. "The most dangerous person I ever met was a 5'3" blonde who looked like she should be teaching elementary school. She could kill you from over a mile away and you'd never even know she was there. So before you judge someone by how they look, remember that Captain Morgan looked like a lost college girl, and she turned out to be the best Marine I ever served under." A year after her arrival, Riley was promoted to major and given command of her own company. At the change of command ceremony, the Marines of Charlie Company gave her a standing ovation. When she gave her speech, she talked about respect, discipline, and the importance of looking beyond surface appearances. "When I arrived here, many of you didn't think I belonged. I was too young, too small, too female. But I didn't let your opinions define me. I let my actions speak for themselves. That's the lesson I want you to take forward. Never let anyone else's limitations become your own. Be so good at what you do that your skill speaks louder than any prejudice." After the ceremony, Master Sergeant Williams approached her. "Ma'am, I have to confess something. When you first asked to qualify with the Barrett, I thought you'd embarrass yourself. I've never been happier to be wrong. You've changed this unit for the better." "Thank you, Master Sergeant. But I didn't change anything. I just showed them what they already had inside. Sometimes people need someone to believe in them before they can believe in themselves." That evening, Riley sat in her quarters, looking at a photo from that first day on the range. Someone had captured the moment right after her 5th shot, and her expression in the photo was one of calm confidence. Not arrogance, just the quiet certainty of someone who knew exactly what they were capable of. Her phone rang. It was her father, a retired Marine colonel who had encouraged her to join the Corps despite everyone telling her she was too small, too young, too female. "Hey Dad, how's retirement?" "Boring. But I hear my daughter is making quite a name for herself. I got a call from an old buddy at Lejeune. He told me you're turning that sniper company into the best unit on base." "Just doing my job." "No, Riley. You're doing more than that. You're changing minds. You're proving what I always knew, that being a Marine has nothing to do with size or gender. It's about heart, skill, and determination. I'm proud of you." Riley felt tears prick her eyes. "Thanks, Dad. That means everything." After hanging up, she walked to her window and looked out over the base. Somewhere out there, Marines were training, preparing for whatever challenges lay ahead. Some of them were probably underestimating their own potential, letting other people's expectations limit them. Tomorrow she'd find those Marines. She'd push them, challenge them, and show them what they were capable of. Because that's what leaders did. They saw potential where others saw limitations. They demanded excellence when others accepted mediocrity. They led by example, showing rather than telling. Riley Morgan had walked onto this base as a young captain that everyone underestimated. She had faced mockery, disrespect, and prejudice. But she hadn't let it define her. Instead, she had picked up a Barrett .50 cal and spoken in the only language that really mattered in the military: excellence. The laughter in the showers had died the moment she squeezed that trigger. But she hadn't done it for revenge or to embarrass anyone. She had done it to teach a lesson that every Marine needed to learn. Respect is earned through performance, leadership is demonstrated through action, and the most dangerous thing in any military is underestimating someone based on appearance. Those lessons had transformed not just Kowalski, Jennings, and Rodriguez, but the entire culture of Charlie Company. And as Major Riley Morgan moved forward in her career, those lessons would follow her, changing every unit she touched and inspiring a new generation of Marines to look beyond surface appearances and focus on what really mattered. In the end, that was her real legacy. Not the record-breaking shots or the perfect qualifications.
It was the minds she changed and the Marines she inspired to be better than they ever thought they could be. And it all started with a pink towel, some cruel laughter, and a Barrett .50 cal that spoke louder than any words ever could.